Welcome back to Naked Folk. I'm your host, Haley Folk, and on this week's episode, we are talking with Rain Sunae, a retired sex worker, pleasure advocate, sexual educator, and the community manager and writers at Lovers or Lovers stores. We're talking about her experience working in the sexual wellness industry, her favorite sexy products, and my favorite bit, how to dirty talk, how to incorporate dirty talk in your life, and how to feel less embarrassed about it. Are you ready to get naked? Let's go. Thank you so much, Rain, for joining me. I already filmed an intro kind of talking about who you are and what you do, but I would love if you could talk about like yourself and how you describe yourself to the world and your pronouns.
Yeah, I am a community manager for Lovers. I definitely describe myself as a pleasure advocate. My pronouns are she, her. And part of what I do as a community manager is I help manage the social accounts for Lovers. I help to kind of create that community digitally. It's a super fun job.
It sounds really fun. I took a look at your Instagram and some of your other socials, and I'm like, wow, this looks like such a cool job to have. Like, that's how I feel about my job as a sex and relationships writer. Like, I actually get paid to do this, and I love it at the same time. And you're also educating people on the other side of like sex and pleasure too, which is so fun if you're passionate about it, of course.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I wanted to know kind of a bit of your background. I know that you are a retired sex worker and you currently work with Lovers, but I wanted to know sort of your journey, like how you got to where you are now, what you're most proud of in your journey, kind of like everything you've gone through to get to this point.
Yeah, well, I don't have the most traditional story, so it's definitely a fun one to tell.
Awesome.
Prior to working with Lovers, I was a sex worker for 9 years. And I think that I was, and I continue to be really, really fortunate to describe that experience as one that was really empowering for me. I knew pretty instantly that I felt very passionate about helping other people to like kind of tap into that same sort of sexual empowerment. And so I felt like the best way to achieve that was to, partner with a company that was already doing that work and that was doing it on a really large scale and shared a lot of the same values as me. And that's kind of how I discovered Lovers. I actually just walked down the street from my house. I said, I'll walk into the first sex store I see. And I was so lucky that it was Lovers and they ticked all of those boxes for me. So I've been working with Lovers for about 5 years. I started in retail management and then I transitioned to marketing. So I'm currently doing that community manager role and I'm their in-house educator.
That's so cool. I personally love Lovers. Like every product that I've tried, like I've tried many different ones, including the Playboy collaboration, and
Oh,
I have
cool.
all good things to say about that. Like, I just think that the brand itself is really cool. They're doing amazing things. I also love that they're prioritizing education as well, because I think a lot of sex toy brands exist, but they're not actually giving you information on like the best ways to use the toys or the best way to like talk to your partner about sex, things like that. So I think it's really beneficial what you're doing in this space, particularly. I just think that it's very cool.
I really appreciate that. And it's always really, really nice to hear that, people are enjoying that type of content because education is absolutely a cornerstone for Lovers. And it's something that we're really, really committed to including in our in-store experiences and our digital experiences. So that feels really good to hear. Thank
Awesome.
you.
Yeah, I when you're talking about like, sex work and things like that, I have done a lot of interviews with people in the industry as sex workers. Either they're kind of doing it their own freelance thing or they're kind of doing mainstream porn or ethical porn or things like that. What was your journey in terms of sex work? Like what did that look for you, and what ultimately made you decide that maybe you wanted to retire from it?
Oh, that is an interesting question. I started in webcamming. That's where I first kind of began my journey, and it seemed like a really, really good place to start. I still tell people if they're interested in sex work that webcamming is a really great area to look at because it is online. So it's a lot easier to maintain your boundaries.
Mhm.
It can be safer in many ways. And I had a great experience with that. I did transition to other trades like dancing, for example. Being a sex worker is not all of what my identity is. And I think coming to terms with that And knowing what types of things I was willing to make sacrifices on really helped me to make that decision.
And also, like you mentioned before, kind of navigating what your new career was going to look like. You landed in something that you actually really care about, which probably is influenced a lot by the sex work that you participated in, because you got to see it on the other side too.
I think it absolutely inspired my decision to come work with lovers. And I also think that it helped inspire a little bit my retirement as well. I think one of the things I spoke to in your earlier question was that I wanted a platform to reach people. And I think, unfortunately, as much as I want sex workers to have more of a platform, they don't right now. And so I needed to transition to a role where people could hear me and
Mhm.
hear what I have to say.
Yeah, there's, again, like speaking to all of the sex workers I've spoken with, a lot of them are freelance. And the ways that, especially Instagram and Facebook, censor things online, there's not
Mhm.
a lot of, unless you have like a big following on Twitter or OnlyFans separately, it's very hard to grow in that respect, I imagine, to grow like this large platform that you can then speak to. And obviously, Lovers has been established for a long time, and you could jump in and really like do something big with that, which is so, so cool. And I know, like, reading your bio, you kind of describe yourself as a pleasure advocate. So I
Totally.
wanted to talk about kind of the definition of that, because I think for people on the outside, they might not know what that means necessarily.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Pleasure advocate is a lot more simple than I think that it comes off. It literally means I'm advocating for your pleasure. So, as a community manager, we try and do that in a lot of different ways, whether that's prioritizing educational content, taking questions from people, answering the questions that they already have, or just introducing them to new concepts and new topics that they might not have otherwise encountered. And I think that's what it's all about. It's about inspiring, educating, and really advocating for your pleasure on your behalf.
Mhm. I love that definition. I think that,
Yeah.
as like I mentioned, as we're in this space and I see a lot of different sexual wellness brands, there's not always a focus on that. So I love that you're talking about pleasure in that way. And how do you kind of, what are some ways that you put that into practice in your work, as far as like tasks that you do or campaigns you've worked on for lovers that really feel based in pleasure?
Yeah, absolutely. We've done so many really cool campaigns in the time that I've been with Lovers Marketing Department. We did a sex educator contest a couple of years ago that was incredible. We had all of these amazing educators come, and we awarded money and prizes and things like that that could help them to further their careers. That's something I felt really passionate about. And we've also run a lot of donations recently as well. So I've had the opportunity through those partnerships to speak to some really incredible people and introduce our followers to those businesses and those organizations, whether it's the Trans Law Center or something else. So we've done some really incredible campaigns, and hopefully you guys will be excited about the upcoming ones that we have planned as well.
Yeah, I'm always on the lookout to see what the brand is doing. And you mentioned that you kind of, work with maybe different organizations, like partnering. What does that look like? Can you like talk about sort of how Lovers partners with different brands, or fundraisers even, to give back to the community?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that we definitely try to include some type of fundraiser or working with different organizations at least a few times a year. There are definitely like certain points in the year that we target because we can only do it so much. So we really want to make sure that it has the biggest impact as possible. Pride is one of those seasons. I think that, it's a time where people are already expecting that conversation to be um, had. And so we really try and focus our energy on making sure that we can elevate these discussions as much as possible.
Mhm. Yeah, that's so great. I think that whenever I see brands partnering in that way to help either with a certain cause or giving money back to an organization that I care about, I'm always more likely to want to support the brand. So I'll be on the lookout. I know Pride is one of the big things for a lot of brands, but I saw some of the Lovers stuff in June and it was really cool. I'm always like, as a bi person myself, I'm always on the lookout for that type of stuff.
It is like the season our associates get most excited about. So
It is. I mean,
completely
it's so
agree.
fun. You get to like be colorful and like do different things and
Yes,
have like dress up and have a different lens of work, which is so cool. And a celebration if you're a part of the community or an ally.
absolutely. Absolutely.
So I wanted to talk a bit about sex advice. I'm sure that you have a lot. Um, but I specifically wanted to talk about um, how you particularly would help someone in their sexual journey if they're kind of just starting out. Like we're talking going back to the basics of like if someone is really just starting out and they want to explore maybe different kinks or fetishes, but they're really like not ready to take the plunge yet. They're just trying to explore themselves and what they like sexually. What are some pieces of advice that you might have in that regard?
Yeah, I really encourage people to stay curious and to do as much research as they can. I think that we are in an era where sex is still very taboo, and that means that we all have some sort of responsibility to seek out that accurate information to some degree. And there's a lot of ways to do that. Like for me, one way that I do that is I love to read books from other educators. I love to look at research papers, but it doesn't have to be that type of research. You can also just follow accounts like Lover Stores on Instagram, and we'll curate a lot of that content and those conversations to kind of spark that inspiration for you. I
Mhm.
think going to stores like that too to give you ideas is another really great way to start to get involved. I think just exposing yourself to different types of environments and conversations is a great way to kickstart that process.
You just reminded me when I was in college, I was 18 and all of my roommates went to a sex shop together and it was very like taboo, right? Like everyone was kind of nervous to go in. And I remember I was sort of the one to be going up to the sales associate and like asking questions and everyone was so nervous. And I just was so happy to like go and ask a question. I wasn't embarrassed, but I've always sort of been that way in the sex space. And I forget that it is taboo in a lot of places still. I mean, doing this podcast, even, I feel like when I talk to people, there are things that come up that I just don't think of because I write about this. I work in the field. So it doesn't feel like in my brain, it doesn't feel taboo, but it is. And this is why conversations like this are so important to be able to kind of look at it from a different lens, even for me too.
Totally. And I think, that was one of the things I'm so grateful that I got my start at Lovers in retail. Is you see that daily. It is hard for people to come into these stores and to have these conversations. And it's something that they should be so proud of. Every time they do it, it is an honor to get to help people to find things that bring them pleasure at various points in their life through various challenges. And yeah, it feels so good, and it's easy to forget that unless it's you're constantly seeing it on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, I also think that there is a lot of courage for the people who work there to approach these people in such a friendly way where they feel comfortable to ask questions. Because I think if it was the opposite, people would feel really intimidated. Like, I can't ask this person this very personal question. Like, I'm
Totally.
thinking about a time when I had a friend who was interested in trying anal play, but did not know that they could go into a store and ask someone for advice there, which could be very confusing. Like if you're looking it up online for the first time, it could feel like, oh, maybe I can't do this. Like it feels a little bit overwhelming, especially with all of the products and advice that exist.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely think it's hard. I think, we've joked before that being an associate at Lovers is kind of like being a therapist because you have to be open to hearing really personal information. You have to
Mhm.
cater your responses to things because, operating without judgment looks different to different people. And so you have to change your tone and you have to change the way that you talk to different types of people in order to have a impact and to really help certain people. So yeah, it is an impressive job. And I really admire all of our associates.
Yeah, I don't know if I could personally do it because it does seem like a therapist vibe. But I think it's so cool and courageous. And I actually in college as well tried to work at the store that I went to because I liked it so much. It was
Yeah,
Lovers. It was like a very small local store in San Diego, but it was cool for me. It kind of ignited my passion for what I do now and
I
realizing
bet.
the industry and a job that you could actually work in.
Totally. And like when you told that story about, going into this shop with your friends, I was like thinking in my head, that's our ideal employee. That's how we meet so many great employees. It's the people that have that passion to begin with, that are that person in their friend group that's giving out advice. And it's great to get more people involved and to see them grow and continue to educate themselves and educate other people.
Yeah, definitely. So when it comes to your path at Lovers, you are now on the marketing team, as we talked about.
Mhm.
What are I guess I kind of want to know some of the things that you most love about your job, things that you really enjoy doing on a daily basis, things that kind of make you feel excited to go to work, and how that relates to the pleasure advocacy point.
Yeah, I think that's strangely a hard question because there's so many fun things about it. A lot of what I do is I make a lot of content. I help with our influencers, so finding people that will really resonate with people that are following us and be able to talk to them in ways that I could never talk to them is always fun to find other people that inspire me. But also, I think just presenting products in a way that normalizes them and excites people is something that I look forward to every day, is trying to come up with a new idea and a new way to frame something and have a conversation. So I feel very privileged that I get to do that every day. And we have so many incredible products that are coming in right now that that is very much something that I'm feeling right now, is excitement to be going to work.
That's ideal. I wish everyone could experience that feeling about work. That kind of segues into another question I had, which as someone who's tried a lot of Lovers products, I'm curious what your favorite products are. I know that's probably a really hard question, but
It's not. I have hundreds and hundreds of toys, but there is one that lives permanently on my nightstand, and that is the Weavite Melt. Are you familiar with that one?
no, I haven't tried that
Oh
one.
my
I've
gosh.
I've used WeVibe, but not that one.
Okay, so Relive Melt is actually from the Womanizer family. So it's an air pulse toy that creates kind of like a pocket of air around the clitoris. So it's stimulating it without actually making contact. And it has this effect where it helps to create the same micro contractions that you would be having during an orgasm. So it's really tricking your body into creating the same physical response that you have when you experience pleasure. And that works very well. And it's a really unique sensation. So I've bought, oh my goodness, I can't even count how many of those I've bought for friends and family members.
I mean, I'm
That's got to
sold
be my
already.
favorite.
I'm like anything that sounds really unique or different or has kind of a different approach to it than like a traditional vibrator, I always want to try. Like I really like have you seen the Rose? Obviously, the Rose is
Yeah.
your like ever that went viral and everyone was into like the suction toys and I've tried like all of those. But anything that seems just different, like when I tried the Playboy line of toys, one thing I noticed is that they're all multi-use and they all have very
Yeah,
different features than like traditional
absolutely.
toys.
I think that like right now too, we're seeing more and more innovation in this particular market, and so that's going to get harder and harder because we're going to have more and more things that we want to try. I'm looking forward to seeing if somebody impresses me more than that melt does. But there's some good contenders coming up. I've seen some really cool products over the last couple of weeks that I'm super excited to introduce to people and
Oh
see
wow.
what they
I'm gonna
think.
have to reach out to you for more information because I'm always down to try anything.
Something new, yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything other than the melt that you feel really excited about? Maybe something that isn't even a toy, but is maybe like lube or like a strap on or something like that.
Gosh, so many things. If it was a lubricant, I'm a huge fan of Intimate Earth. They make vegan lubricants. Everybody always likes to laugh at the fact that it's a vegan lubricant, but it is cleaner. And I think that there's actually quite a few people that struggle with irritation from commonplace lubricants that you would buy. And so I love this brand. I love introducing people to it. I feel really passionate about how they're creating their products for people and how affordable that they can also be. But I think something that I've been really excited about lately is we just expanded to include a whole bunch of sex furniture. And so I've been talking about that quite a bit with people. I'm super excited. It's something we've talked about doing for a long, long time, is really including these types of products in our inventory. And they are really impressive, I have to say.
I am very excited about this. I feel like I need to get one for myself.
Oh, definitely. I highly recommend it.
Yeah, you have to keep me in the loop on that too, because I will be buying something, something that fits in my house. I live in New York, so it's kind of a small place, but if there's something that could perfectly fit in my bedroom, I would be happy about it.
And that's something I'm really excited about too, is like going back into the innovation component. These pieces of sex furniture are becoming a lot more compact and a lot more portable for people. So I think that that means that they'll also get a lot more use.
Yes, like if it's this big bulky thing that you can't move around, maybe it won't get used as much. But it's nice to know that they're making it smaller. They're kind of figuring out what people like, and that's always great to know. And then I wanted to go back to the sex advice piece. Something that I think people assume when you're talking to a sex worker or a retired sex worker like yourself is that you would know how to talk dirty. An assumption that people make, because I'm sure, like, when I
Yeah.
speak to friends, who are maybe less inclined to talk dirty with their partner because they're nervous, or even just like having phone sex feels awkward. I wonder
Yeah.
if you had any advice on how to approach that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think dirty talk, it is something that I think people are worried they're gonna say something stupid or that they have to say something like really crazy in order for it to count as dirty talk. And that's not the case. I've said it before in our Q&As, but sometimes the simplest statements can be the most powerful statements. So that's a really good thing to remind yourself if you're feeling hesitant about dirty talk. But typically, if someone's interested in exploring dirty talk, I tell them to talk about their sensations, because dirty talk is a form of sensation play, right? It is appealing to our auditory sensation. And so when we describe positive sensations that we're experiencing, whether it's the way something feels or tastes or smells or looks, this gives us kind of like an endless arsenal of ways to validate and arouse our partner. So that is a super simple way to get involved in dirty talk and to make it feel natural to you. On that note, I think, no one's forcing you to say certain words. If there's a word that feels like it's giving you the ick or it doesn't feel like it's authentic to you, then you don't have to use it. I
Yeah.
think if it sounds that way in your head, it's probably not going to come out sexy, right?
Yeah, because you're not feeling confident in saying it, right? You're having this
Right.
pause, or this doesn't really sound like something I would want to say in my real life. So maybe I
Exactly.
shouldn't say it in this space.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's okay to laugh at yourself. I think that, we're also worried of embarrassing ourselves when we say dirty talk, but sex is supposed to be fun. And I think laughter is an indication that we're having fun. It's okay to laugh. So I think people need to be reminded of that. But there are so many great ways to spice up your dirty talk and to elevate it, whether it's asking for consent or asking for direction or asking for validation. Do you enjoy this? How do I look to you? There's a lot of fun ways to make conversations sexy and appealing. Yeah.
Yeah, and I do think, I'm working on an article right now for The Knot about how to make phone sex less awkward if you're like scared to do it. And I was interviewing some folks about it, and the responses I got were so great and so entertaining as well, because it can be sometimes things are just awkward and then you can laugh and be silly. Like, sex doesn't have to be perfect. It can be fun and silly. And like I was saying this on a podcast the other week, that sex can be that your body moves a weird way or you make a weird noise and you can laugh about it too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would love to hear what some of those responses are. I'm so curious.
Yeah, it's so interesting too to interview people who are struggling with phone sex or dirty talk in the bedroom with their partner or partners, because it's like they're very much in their own head, right? Like, and
Yeah.
the partner generally, when they actually say something, is like, "Oh, that's nice." Like I like it's never, no one's ever going to stop you and be like, "That was stupid to say."
Yeah, absolutely.
And if they do, you shouldn't be having sex with them.
I agree. It's a great indicator of a person that maybe you shouldn't be with.
Exactly. Everyone should be able to have fun and like be themselves in the bedroom. And even if you say something you wouldn't say again, at least you tried.
And I can say I've absolutely said things that I should never say again that just slip out, and
Yeah.
those are some of the most memorable experiences I have because we just end up laughing like so hard after we say something like that. It's really something that has been a positive experience looking back on it.
Yeah. No, and those are good stories with your partner, like things that you can laugh about for years to come. I listened to a podcast. I don't know if you're familiar with Glennon Doyle. She is the author of Untamed, but she has a podcast called We Can Do Hard Things. And in particular, they do a few episodes around dirty talk because her and her wife are nervous about dirty talk, and her wife is really into it, and she's not. Like her wife really
Yeah,
wants her to be like,
yeah,
I want you to talk to me and tell me what you like. And Glennon's like, I can't do that. I can't say anything when we're having sex. So there's a coach that kind of walks them through like how to dirty talk on the podcast. And it's very entertaining. And like you can tell that she feels really awkward, but then feels good after doing it.
good. I'm really glad to hear that. And yeah, like I think that that just is a testament to try it out. You never know what you're going to feel like. You may feel like it's going to be uncomfortable, but maybe it ends up being something that really surprises you. I know that I certainly had those experiences as a sex worker, and that's kind of what led me back to here. So
Yeah. I mean, all for good. You ended up where you're supposed to be.
yeah, yeah, it's good to surprise yourself.
Always stay curious, always kind of keep on your toes. It's interesting as we grow as humans, how we evolve and see things differently. But everything, in my opinion, is sort of meant to be. Like everything that we do has a purpose and a meaning, and we can move forward and have this life of happiness, especially in careers. Like I think it's really awesome when you're able to take steps forward and see what really matters to you and what you do. And especially in the sex space, so many people would probably love to have the job that you do because it does sound so fun. And I just think it's really commendable that you continue to provide education and be a listening ear for the people who buy from lovers and the people who write in, because I'm sure there's a lot of engagement on social media. I just think that's so cool what you have accomplished and done.
Oh, that is really kind. I really appreciate that. I am also really proud of, watching Lovers grow over these last several years. We've gone through a lot of changes, but it's been upward and really exciting to watch and be a part of. You
That's
know.
so cool. And I know we've talked a lot about some of the things you're excited about working on currently, but is there anything else that you want to highlight that you're working on right now that you feel really passionate about? It doesn't have to be with lovers, it could be also, but something that you're just generally working on that you feel really excited to be working on.
Yeah, with Lovers, we are working on a campaign right now with the company Sockham. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them.
No.
Really incredible products. They have these super innovative strokers that are also, app controlled, app enabled. And we're working on a campaign right now that is all male influencers. And I'm really, really excited because we don't have a lot of male influencers on our feed. And it can be really, really difficult to locate them. And so I think this is going to be a really, really cool campaign that is going to bring something to our account that I'm really excited to see existing there.
Yeah.
For myself, I just recently started getting really into maternity photography.
Oh,
And
wow, that's so
and
cool.
that's been a yeah, it's been an amazing experience. I love getting to shoot people whose bodies are changing and who are feeling not themselves, and having them come out of those photo shoots and feeling really, really empowered and incredible about themselves. It's been such a really um, wonderful experience for me.
That's so cool. I think, like there's obviously like boudoir photography that you do, but before your wedding or something, and that's really exciting.
Yeah,
You get to feel sexy. But this is a whole other dimension of feeling proud of your body and feeling confident and sexy because you are changing, and going through this massive shift in your life and your body. So that's so cool to highlight for these folks who are going through that and to make them feel maybe a little bit more confident in where they are.
I agree. It's been a total pleasure. Absolutely.
No pun intended. Total pleasure. Um, so where can people find you online? What's the best way to like get in contact with you or follow anything that you're up
Yeah.
to?
If you are interested in checking out that melt or finding a real one of our stores, then you can look at www.loverstores.com, and that's plural lovers stores. Or you can follow us on Instagram. We are at Lover Stores on Instagram, and we do a lot of product drops on there. We put a lot of promotions on there, so it's a great way to stay up to date or just to find some fun inspiration.
Awesome. And then do you have a personal Instagram or
I do, yeah. If you are interested in my educational work, you can follow me at Rain Sunae on Instagram. It's RAINSUNAE.
awesome. Well, thank you so much. I hope that everyone that has listened will check out Lovers. I really love the brand. I think that you're doing amazing things. And I also think that you, Rain, are doing amazing things, with pleasure advocacy, the importance of education, and really just working on things that you can tell that you're passionate about and that you really want to help people with. I think that's the component that a lot of brands miss. And I just really commend you for what you're doing.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you for having me on and using your platform to introduce more people to lovers and to conversations about sex work. I think that's also very commendable.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm a big sex work advocacy person. I think that the more we talk about it and destigmatize it, the better the world will be.
Agreed.